have, I'm thrilled that we have so many people on today's call and hope that you will find it a very helpful session. And we're going to just dive right in and begin. So as I think you just heard, the session is being recorded and a copy will be available on the District 29 website after the session. If everyone on the call could, except for our panelists, could mute your microphone and also turn off your video. We want to do that so that we can focus on the panel discussion. And panelists, please keep your video on even if you're not answering a question so that we can all be focused on just the panel. Because our time is short, we won't have time for Q&A afterwards. However, if you do have a question throughout the session, please post it in chat and I will do my best to follow up with you afterwards if we haven't answered your question during the session. And Carolina, I'm going to ask you to please mute your video. Thank you. Okay. As the corporate liaison for District 29, it is my pleasure to introduce our panel. First is Beverly Ross, IP2, who is president of CFC Power Presenters Toastmasters Club in Area 51. The club was chartered in June 2019, and Beverly joined in December of that same year. She is an internal audit manager for the National Rural Utilities Cooperation Finance Corporation. So welcome, Beverly. Our next panelist is Sahithi Chintapalli. She is president of the CB Toast of Town Toastmasters Club, which is in Area 42. The club was chartered in August of 2019, and Sahithi is a charter member. She is the lead quality engineer for the College Board. Welcome, Sahithi. And last but not least, our third panelist is Amy Steele. She is president of the Avantis Toastmasters Club, which is in the Tysons area. This club is brand new and is expected to charter next week. So we are very excited to have this new club on board. Amy is a senior associate in technology integration for Avantis Federal. Welcome, Amy. Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And one of the things that I really like about this particular panel and this particular group of Toastmasters clubs is that you are all new or relatively new corporate clubs. And I think that that's really important in this environment because we all know the value of Toastmasters. We all know the value of learning the leadership and communication skills. However, getting the word out there within our workforce is a challenge. And so I'm really happy to have this particular panel for our discussion today. My first question is going to be directed to everybody. And I'm going to start with Sahithi. Tell us a little bit about how your Toastmasters Club came about within your company.
Sure. So as you mentioned, our club started in 2019, and we had one of our College Board members who already has been part of Toastmasters Club, and she was an area director at that time. Her name is T.S. Kundu. So she was very enthusiastic to bring the club to our company, and she coordinated very well with the area directors at that time, and also she coordinated with the HR, and she finally brought the club to the company. And I still remember the first time I was part of that orientation and just being so glad to be there. And I'm so glad to be here at this moment that I'm leading this club, such a great club. So that's how we have started our club, with the help of one of the Toastmasters members.
Thank you, Sahithi. And Beverly, I'm going to ask you the same question. Tell us a little bit about how your Toastmasters Club came about within your company.
Well, we at CFC are really fortunate to have the superstar Rick Taylor as our founding member, director, president when he started. And Rick is very passionate about Toastmasters, and his passion flows over to all of us members, including myself. When I joined the company in 2019 is when I joined the company, and I had heard of an announcement about Toastmasters, and it was already in existence, so it wasn't like it was brand new. So I only had heard the name Rick Taylor. I only knew that they were meeting, and I went to the first meeting. And after that, I really liked what I saw. I saw the value in it, and I've just been involved ever since. But Rick Taylor was our founding person, and it really starts with somebody who has a real passion for the mission of Toastmasters.
Agreed. Thank you, Beverly. And finally, Amy, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Tell us a little bit about how Toastmasters started at Aventus.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So Toastmasters at Aventus, our leadership, including our CEO, Andy Maynor, had been really interested in bringing it into the club as another offering for our employees. And we hired a leadership manager who also happens to be the Toastmaster for Kingstown Toasties. And he reached out and got a group of motivated employees. And so now we've got a charter out there, and we're excited to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And the common thread that I heard among all three of you is that there was someone in the background who had a passion for Toastmasters, who really felt that there would be a need within your company and there would be great value added. So I think that's a lesson for all of us who are currently involved in Toastmasters about the strength of how our own passion can really develop into other greater things. So thank you all very much for that response. My next question is going to be, why do you think having a Toastmasters club at your company is important? What do you hope that the club members are going to gain? And what do you hope that the company as a whole is going to gain? So I'll repeat that one more time. Why is having a Toastmasters club at your company important? What do you hope that the club members will gain? And what do you hope the company as a whole will gain? And I'll start with Sahithi.
Thank you, Paula. So why it is important to have a club? I feel like it is important to have a medium to practice your public speaking skills is an advantage, because no matter how many presentations I give to my team, it will be a certain topic or subject. I can't go beyond that because I need to be professional and talk about that subject. But I feel like Toastmasters Club opens up the medium because you can talk about anything that you're comfortable with or anything you're not comfortable with to improve. So I feel like in that sense, having that kind of medium within your reach of just like clicking a button and joining, not having to look for clubs outside, is an added advantage. And in that sense, I feel it's advantageous to have one. And what members would or employees would get out of it is, as I mentioned, you're having that specific space where you're going to improve your public speaking. At the same time, you're connecting with other organization members, which probably would not happen on a regular basis. I probably wouldn't be working with a specific person that I'm working on a regular basis through Toastmasters. Maybe I'm not getting that chance otherwise. So in that sense, social connection is another added advantage in addition to improving your public speaking for members. And for the company itself, what other advantage can you think of when you have so many good public speaking people and they're able to put their ideas out so clearly and proficiently because of the skills that they learn from Toastmaster? I think that's a win-win situation both for the members or the employees and the company as well.
Thank you, Sahithi. Beverly, I'll ask you the same question.
Paula, do you want me to answer that question also?
Yes, please, Beverly, yes.
Okay. First of all, to the individual members, it really offers an opportunity for professional development. The particularly newer workers, younger workers have an opportunity to gain confidence, to interact with others. So personally, there are huge benefits to professional development. If you think about it, not only is it developing speaking skills, but as we just saw the 5 steps of how to write a speech. It actually helps you with some of your writing skills, organizational skills, how to organize your thoughts, those types of things. Those are all professional development. How does it develop the entire company? Huge benefits. Similar to what Sahithi mentioned, when you have other people from other departments interacting with one another, it's electric because they don't get to interact necessarily on a daily basis. You're usually only interacting with somebody in your department or who you directly report to. You don't get to know others in other departments. So by having that additional connection, you gain camaraderie, you gain respect for one another's jobs and what other people do. You also provide a personal connection as you get to know people a little bit on a different level. You get to know about them, their other hobbies, the things that they talk about, and it has a glue that's kind of behind the scenes. And I think that's one of the reasons why the executives are very supportive of it as well, or should be supportive of it, because it does have that glue that kind of connects you behind the scenes. All huge benefits to any corporation.
Thank you, Beverly. And Amy, this is something that really is at the forethought of your thinking, because your club is literally in the process of being chartered, and you've been through the process within your company of why do you think Toastmasters is important. So if you could answer that question as well.
Yeah, so our company Advantis, we have 5 specific values like eminence, inspire yourself, stay humble, embracing diversity. And Toastmasters kind of is a perfect fit. That's why they really wanted to get it going. So the company benefits by gaining or retaining professionals with great presentation skills, well-rounded employees with tighter relationships, and just a real great quality, well-recognized program for employees on top of a lot of the professional development opportunities we have within Advantis. So there's that. Would you like me to answer the other 2 questions?
Yes,
as
please.
well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So so our club members will gain things such as the other ladies have mentioned: confidence in public speaking, crafting of speaking and speeches and presentations. Also in a smaller environment, it gives you kind of the comfort and a camaraderie of support. So, which is so important regardless of your age or, professional experience. So also Toastmasters kind of provides for our companies for an opportunity for people to meet who normally wouldn't meet, as Beverly mentioned, and create new friendships, new, professional networking opportunities, getting involved in other areas. So those are some of the things that the individuals will gain.
Thank you very much. And what I'm hearing is not just about professional and presentation skills and confidence in speaking, but also great networking opportunities, but also the opportunity to meet in a safe environment on the job where you're with your peers, but at the same time, you're in a supportive environment. So thank you all for those responses. And this question is going to be geared more towards Sahithi and Beverly, because your clubs have been around for a little bit longer. And my question for Sahithi is, how has the pandemic shaped the way that your club does things?
First of all, I'd say the dynamics have changed a lot since the pandemic has happened, because we're not in person anymore. We are complete online, because there are people from several different states and who's joining us because of how people have moved across. So it has been a little challenging of how we even create, like, deliver our speeches, because you don't have that much of physical, you can't really see any actions, or we're getting better at that, where people have learned to include those in their presentation skills. But in that sense, I think we have changed how we are doing things. The officers, the way we do things, for example, the sergeant at arms would have more when we were in person, but being online, the officer roles, we had to look at it in a different sense and find new responsibilities within our club. But overall, even from the members' perspective, I think it was a big challenge, because people ended up being in a different zone, because they're not in office, so we don't have their 100% attention. So it was difficult to gain members, at the same time retain members, and also members who were with us, it was difficult to have them prepare a speech and give us. So we struggled very much with member engagement throughout, but we have come out of it pretty strong with the help of my club officers. We are at a stage where all the roles are filling in pretty quick for the future meetings. But I'd say it was definitely a big challenge that we had to overcome, because of the way we have moved from in-person to a totally virtual club.
Thank you, Sahithi. And Beverly, what challenges has your club faced because of the pandemic?
Well, wow, like, yeah, a lot of challenges. Going to a virtual environment, I mean, the bottom line is we lost people. We did lose people. It's hard, it is harder to engage. I would say one of the things we gained, however, is we learned how to speak virtually online, and that's a little bit of a different, it's a little different. So, the body language is a little harder to do, and you have to kind of do more with that. So we kind of learned some new skills through it for those who have continued. The other thing we've lost, not only have we lost members just because of the interest in the engagement, but our company, as I'm sure others, people have left the company and are now with other companies as well. So we've lost people through that aspect of it. Now, we have come back in a hybrid form now in our office. We did come back last year towards the second half of the year, where we started meeting in person, but we have 6 foot, so we're even farther apart in very large rooms, and we worn our masks and such. So we've even had to kind of adapt to, do you use a mask when you're speaking? How does that affect it? That's changed some of the stuff. I will also say we've changed our calendar, because we want to keep the quality of our meetings really good. And so we were doing every 2 weeks, but it was really hard to keep the quality of the meetings up if we put ourselves in that 2-week time frame, because it comes up and we were having less people. So it was easier to go to 3 weeks and then or a month, or we're a little more flexible on when we meet now, to make sure we're not meeting as frequently, to make sure that our quality of our meetings stay up there, so we're not losing interest for the lack of quality. In the meantime, we've had new members now join, even since we're back in the hybrid mode. And in the hybrid mode, just to let you know, in our conference room, we do have a big screen, so we can see the people that are online, and they can see everybody in the room as well. It's not ideal, but it works, and it still keeps us involved. And it, for people that are not in the office, because we kind of allow people the rotation of whether they want to be in or out. We're saying we'll meet with you whether you're in the office or not. Please still come. So that's how we're doing it.
Thank you very much, Beverly. And I think the operative word that I'm hearing there is adaptability. And that's a skill that certainly Toastmasters teaches us. But even within our club structure that's already there, we've experienced through the pandemic how we need to be adaptive. And those are good skills. Also, you touched upon the fact, Beverly, that virtual presentation skills are important, because let's face it, the virtual world is not going away. Even if the pandemic were to end tomorrow, we are where we are. So being able to present virtually as well as in person are very good skills to have. So thank you. My next question is going to focus on how does your company support your club? And what additional support do you feel like you need from your executives, if any? Now I'm going to start with Amy. Obviously, you're still in the beginning portion of it, but to what extent did your company support starting Avantis? Talk to us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the leadership was really excited to get it going and reaching out to to the company as a whole. Supporting, we are really fortunate. Our company has a very deep value and puts a lot of resources into professional development, developing yourself. One of the phrases that's completely consistently repeated is develop your career at Avantis. So that was just, yeah, we've just met with nothing but a lot of support. Also, the company decided there's a budget for professional education, and they've used some of that money for us to enable to start and pay for all of the members and executives. So to take part of Toastmasters. So.
Sahithi, I'll ask you the same thing about how does your company support your club?
Sure, Paula, thank you. Like Amy mentioned, our company has been pretty supportive since the beginning. Since the club has begun, our HR has been sponsoring all the members' dues. So everyone is just paid for when they join. But there was a brief period in between where they could not sponsor because of the pandemic financial challenges that every company faced. At which point all the members had to pay for themselves, and at that point we did see a decline in the member count, because there were a lot of them who didn't want to commit to paying that because they were not sure if they were going to be active or be able to use that in a good manner. So we did struggle at that point, but recently my VP of membership and myself, we again reached back to the HR and showed them the stats of how it helped, how the members declined since they were not sponsoring, and just give a good explanation of how it is helping everyone. We were able to get back the sponsorship back. So currently they're again sponsoring the entire club, all the members. And the only way that I think they can help us more is a point that we're working on. They are going to look at this year's stats to see how we're doing in sense of all the pathways that we select and all that. And they are looking at making it more company-wide exposure. So they're going to include Toastmasters Club as part of the leadership or the professional development plan or the talent development plan. So we are working with HR on that, but that depends on how we portray that it is helping the members and all that. So that's something that we are working on in the future.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Beverly, how does your company support your club?
Our executive group verbally is very supportive. They certainly allow us to, advertise, talk about it. Our company pays for some of the dues, but not all of them. They pay for, I think, the fee at the beginning, but not all of it. We have one of our senior executives, a member of Toastmasters, which is important as well. So there's a lot of support to it in general, although I will say, depending on who your supervisor or manager is, could affect, how much time you feel like you have in terms of the time commitment, because work still is the priority. And it's always a juggling act. We meet during the lunch hour, so it does not interfere with other meetings or other responsibilities that you might have. So at times we don't mind if people bring their lunch, if that gets them there. So we do what we can there to allow some flexibility. So I would say, you know, what more could they do? Just more of the same. The time commitment is probably the biggest thing in terms of being supportive and saying that, you know, if you need a little extra time here or there within the time frame, you know, it's okay. I know even for me, obviously the time we're spending in Toastmasters today is outside of our work time, so there's a personal commitment to it as well. But for the most part, the company is supportive of the time that you spend with Toastmasters. So that's generally how we get a lot of the support from the executives. Again, and verbally, they're very supportive of saying it's a good opportunity. Human Resources is very supportive. During the orientation, any new hire orientation, they introduce Toastmasters at the new hire orientation. So all new employees know we have a Toastmasters chapter. This would be a great way to get involved and to sign up. So that's how we do that.
Thank you. And I think for members of our audience, it is an important question to consider. Should the company pay for the dues or not, or part of the dues? And quite honestly, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. Sahithi mentioned that there was a drop because of the uncertainty of what's going on. There was a drop in club membership when the company did not sponsor the dues, and then that returned whenever the corporation started supporting it again financially. But I will say that when a company pays dues, there also has to be accountability. And for example, if the company is paying dues, then it is correct for the company to expect that members are going to actively participate and will grow. Simply not, Toastmasters shouldn't be something that is simply something that you can put on paper. There has to be more accountability to that. So whether or not a company pays dues or not, there are both advantages and disadvantages to either side that our audience members should consider. Sahithi, do you ever have speakers from within your executive group or even outside of your company come in and speak?
Yes, we do. So recently, not recently, but about 6 months ago, we did a retro with all the members just to understand what we can do different to improve member engagement. And one of the ideas that members came up with is to have inspirational speakers or executive members that they look up to come speak to us. Mm-hmm. So we were able to implement that option, and we so far had about, I think, 2 guest speakers from the executive team, the leadership team, come, and I felt like that idea went pretty well. We had more members, even non-members join that meeting because they wanted to hear what the other executive leader has to share. And mostly we have they shared about public speaking, of their personal story or what they think should be about public speaking. So in that sense, I feel like both members and non-members have gained something good from those speeches. And also we are looking at bringing the speakers from the area or the division itself to come speak to us and motivate our members with their speaking or presentation skills.
Thank you, Sahithi. And Beverly, do you ever have outside speakers coming within, whether it be your outside executive team or outside members?
We may have more prior to the pandemic, but since it's been virtual, not as much. So it just hasn't been as much in recent. Again, prior to, we did have another Toastmasters outside. We also encourage some of our members to speak as a guest speaker at another Toastmasters meeting. so that we're sharing and going there. So we do that with our members. But again, since the pandemic, not as much. It's been a little less since then.
And I think it's an area of opportunity for all of our corporate clubs, because there is definitely motivation from members and non-members to hear executive level people coming in to speak. As someone mentioned, it might be someone that they look up to, someone that they want to get to know better, maybe in a professional setting. Also, it's a very effective way of conducting an employee open house. So that's something for everyone to consider. My next question is going to focus on how do you attract new members to your club? And Amy, I'm going to focus on you first. Obviously, your club is still in the throes of beginning, but what did your executive team specifically do to try and attract new talent into your club?
So we have a talent management coordinator lead, and he reached out to put out a bunch of announcements regarding Toastmasters. So a few of us followed up with it, and then so we have three distinct areas within our company. There's HQ, there's civilian division, and a defense division. So we kind of pulled from all of those. Our Toastmasters team comes from all three of those, and that's something they wanted to make sure happened. Then as far as getting new members or encouraging membership, we had help from the talent management group. We had an open house. We had advertisement within newsletters. Also, as I call it, the grassroots effort. Each team member, we drafted a template letter and sent that out to all of our different either contracts or shared that across either people we work with within the company, contracts, smaller groups, and just kind of really put ourselves out there and reached out to people. And if people had questions, we met every Friday and said, hey, I've got somebody with this question. Can you answer it? Yeah. So, and just kind of kept agility and keeping the momentum of communication going. So.
Thank you, Amy. Sahithi, how does your club get new members?
Sure. So in the past, our previous president has collaborated with one of the affinity groups within our college board. And that affinity group had more than 100 members. So we did a panel discussion with all the club officers at that meeting. And that has brought so many members because there were 100 plus people, and there was a good chance of us gaining members. So that was a good way that my past president has pulled the trigger, and we were able to get good amount of members. And currently our VP of PR is great at putting our club out there. So we in our local company intranet, she posts about every meeting of what happened, who came, just in general details about when we are meeting. And in that sense, we had many guests join our team meeting. And then either the VP of PR, me, or the VP of membership, we would just follow up with the guests and just keep a track of what they're feeling about the meeting, and just follow up to see if they would like to join more meetings to make a decision. So in that sense, we're reaching out to more people, and just putting our meeting details out there on that site has also made us gain more members. And just in general, word of mouth, you talking to another person about your personal experience might engage them to come join a meeting. That happened to me. I talked to my mentor at the college board, and he mentioned that his employee was looking for public speaking, and he was able to connect her to me, and I invited her to the meeting, and she's able to look at what we're doing. So just these are the several different ways that we are able to get new members join our club.
Awesome. Beverly, how does your club reach out to attract new members?
Well, I had mentioned previously, we do a lot with new employees. We actually, I would say new employees are really we get the most interest from new employees. So we do that through the HR orientation process and word of mouth. And I'm going to talk to Rick, mention him. He was our founding member. He's been very instrumental just in gaining camaraderie with people and inviting them, and just personally inviting people. If people feel like there's a personal interest, they're going to respond more. So that would be really the number one way that we make the connection, is really on a personal level. In addition, though, we do have a CFC Connect page, which is an intranet type of a thing that we have for all employees. We are constantly, it's on the calendar. We put pictures, we make it very visual, reminding people that it's coming up, that type of a thing. We do some of that as well.
Thank you, Beverly. My next question is going to be, let's see here. Pathways is a very important part of Toastmasters. Obviously, it is the education program is the backbone of the program, and it moves members through the process and through their learning experience. So my question to Sahithi is, do you have a process of getting new members on board with Pathways?
Yes. So in the beginning, the first 6 months, we had mentors come in from outside to make sure we were set to run our club by ourselves. So the first 6 months, we had mentors from the division come see how we are doing things, or make us learn things. In the beginning, they were giving sessions about what pathways are, how to select them, and how, in general, just making us walk through what it is and how to select. But currently, our VP of education does separate sessions with new members, just walking them through what the pathways are, how to select them, how many they can select, and just in general walk through the process of the pathway. He does it separately with the new members. That way it's not like a repetitive information for all the set of members who already know about pathways or who already have a pathway selected. And also, for example, one of our members chose a speech topic of pathways. So she just delivered a speech of how to select pathways and do things like that. So that way it's just a refresher for members and also new members or any guests that are there, just to understand what pathways are all about. So we're just trying our best to get to people, especially new members, of walking them through what pathways are and how to select them. And our VP of education has been on that. And we are here to support him, all the members.
Great, Sahithi, thank you. Beverly, what is your club's process for getting people involved with Pathways?
So I'm going to talk about something we just introduced. Haven't even 100% done it yet, but this is what we're going to do because we need it more. We've created an inventory for our group of everybody. We have like a spreadsheet, it's got everybody's names on it, and the paths in level 1, 2, 3, kind of like a big matrix, so that everybody can see this is the inventory of our group and who's on what level and what they've done. And it, you know, not going back to your kindergarten years where you put the little star in the spot that you completed it, but that's conceptually what you're trying to visualize. We've completed these steps, and how many stars can we get on the little thing? So it's a little more professional looking than your star thing, but that's the concept, is putting in front of everybody the inventory. And again, we just came up with this because we knew it was a weak point of making sure everybody keeps progressing through the pathways. So then in our next meeting, my goal is to literally have this little graph thing so that we can see the status of where we're at. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do that every single meeting, but we might do it quarterly as we make progress or something, so that people can see their progress visually. and not only just see it individually, but we can see it as a group. So that's a new idea we just came up with, and we'll see how that goes to improve it.
Thank you. And Amy, while your club is obviously still in the process of chartering, I know from our demo meeting a couple weeks ago that I believe you guys have a process to bring people onto Pathways. So what, in terms of getting your new members signed up for the Pathways education program, do you have a process in place, or do you have something formal, or maybe you're not quite at that stage yet?
So
Well,
we're working.
go ahead.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Was it for me? I'm sorry.
No, Amy. Yes, Amy.
Okay. So we're just getting started, kind of waiting for the charter to come through, but at the same time doing a little bit of ideas of getting ourselves comfortable with running, like doing a dry run meeting. And as far as the pathways, that's something we're still kind of in the process of working out, and keeping communication open with the members who signed up as to where things are. And I think that something like the pathways will be part of our next communication once we get our charter. So still kind of a little bit of a work in progress, but that's where we are.
Right.
So
Obviously, your club isn't even fully chartered yet, so you're still in that process. But I think that the responses that we've heard lend itself to how important it is to have a process in place. Because if your members are not using the Pathways program, they're not really benefiting from everything that Toastmasters has to offer. And
Exactly.
Pathways is the primary vehicle through which people practice their communication and leadership skills. So for our audience members, that's something to really keep in mind, that if you're not actively engaging with getting your members signed up on Pathways, they're not really actively engaged. So that's an important point to remember going forward. My next question for Sahithi will be, tell us about a recent club success.
Just recently, we have gained the Smedley Award for adding 5 or more new members. And I feel like that's a great win because of what we have gone through in the past during the pandemic of losing people. So I really thank my officers who have worked to reach out to people and make sure we are gaining and just following up with the guests that follow, that attend the meeting, and just be on top of things to make them sign up. So that's a recent achievement that we have gained.
Wonderful, thank you. Beverly, tell us about a recent club success for your club.
Yeah. So we had a special December holiday Toastmasters where we took a break from the traditional format, and we got in groups of 4, and the group created a new Christmas story or a holiday story about a mythical creature, and they had a beginning and a middle and an end kind of a thing, and they came up with the story, and each person gave a speech or presented the story in 4 different parts. And it was really fun, and I think it was different, and it was kind of impromptu, but it also connected the members together, and I think it will be very memorable, and people will remember the holiday party with the stories that were told. That was a great success.
Thank you, Beverly. And one of the things that you bring about is this idea of changing it up every once in a while, having a different sort of meeting. It is true that Toastmasters definitely has a structure to it, but at the same time, there's no reason why you can't be creative within that structure. So changing it up every now and then, that's a way to kind of mix things up and get people a little bit more engaged. So thank you, Beverly, for that example. I want to focus on, why do members join your club? What is it that they hope to gain? And it could be anything from professional development, social time together, business contacts, club environment. Specifically, Sahithi, why do your members join your club?
My answer is going to be what you mentioned: professional development, social interaction, and also just gaining that confidence to be able to present things, improve their presentation skills. As a professional, you need to have, or you need to be able to put your ideas out in a proper manner. So I feel like these are the three major things that I feel like my members are here, be able to practice your presentation skills and meet new members. And we have a fun group. So just that time that you enjoy. We also meet during lunch hour because of other work meetings that you might have. We feel like people tend to attend more if it is a non-meeting time. So just them spending their lunch hour with us shows a lot that they are gaining a lot more, and which is what is making them come join us during their lunch hour.
Thank you. So, Amy, with your club being brand new, what do you think the draws are within your company to bring in new members?
So the draws are the opportunity for public speaking. We have a lot of people, like I mentioned, in different phases and different roles on contracts, and everybody's wanting to be able to speak confidently and clearly, either about a product, a deliverable, themselves. Things that also draw are the opportunity to meet one another, most especially after time we've been in this COVID situation. So that's been kind of a draw. Our first meeting was sort of hybrid, and we kind of aim to stay hybrid as much as possible, minus some pivots and things. But hopefully the opportunity to make bonds across the company is also another draw. So.
Thank you, Amy. And Beverly, how do you feel that what are new people interested in achieving or attaining? How do you get new people in? What are they looking for?
Well, a couple of things that we've noticed is the natural attraction to Toastmasters is those that have a job that requires more public speaking. For example, we had a member that added this just this last year. She's doing a new podcast for us in our corporate relations group, and she wanted more experience just speaking because she's going to be doing the podcast. So that's the obvious one. Another is some of the new employees that we've noticed have already had good experiences with Toastmasters. And so they were thrilled to see that we had a Toastmasters chapter that they want to continue. Mm-hmm. And then for some, they just really enjoy the public speaking and the interaction as well. So there's no question, though, that depending on what your job description is, similar to what Amy mentioned too, if your job description requires more presentation, you want to practice those presentation skills. So that has a tendency to be a draw as well.
Thank you, Beverly. One of the challenges to corporate clubs, more so than community clubs, is the fact that some Toastmasters events are held in the evenings and on the weekends, such as officers trainings, award programs, different types of maybe our Sunday social happy hours that we have. How do you encourage club members who are, used to more of an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 schedule? How do you encourage them, Sahithi, to participate in after hours types of programs?
I'd say I myself am learning how to do that. Having a toddler, it is difficult to find that time and motivation. So I'd say I'm still working on that. I'm fairly new being a president, but we do put the calendar out there in our meetings. For example, this Thursday we had a meeting. We did mention to everyone that there are these electives that you could look at to join, something that might interest you. So just putting the events out there for the members to know is how we keep it, at least let them know that there is something going on. And obviously as I said, I'm still working on how to get to that part, but for now, just letting them know of what's coming up is what I've been doing. But I'm looking forward to know more of what the other ladies do to encourage and learn from them here.
Thank you, Sahithi. Beverly, so how do you encourage members to participate in off company hours kinds of events?
Well, we tell them that if they're an officer, they're supposed to be doing it. So that's one thing. That's, you know, if you're in the leadership spot, we want you to be part of the leadership training or something to that effect. So that's just the leadership side. For just the regular members, we certainly make the announcements known. We let them know. We've have some that just by their own interests are voluntary on other groups or other types of things. So it has to be self-motivated, though. I would say if it's not self-motivated, you're not really going to do a whole lot. You got to make the most of it. But I think if their experience gets better and better within the corporate 9 to 5 time frame, they'll see that the additional time outside of that will still bring benefits. I think the contests help generate interest outside because everybody likes to be a part of a contest. That can be another way to generate some interest as well. So, you know, it's not easy, and certainly we don't have 100% of our members, you know, attending all these evening things because it's hard. It's really hard. But it in increments, as the more you're a member, the more you'll see those benefits. And I'm going to use myself as an example. When I first signed up, I was just getting to know what Toastmasters was. I was just kind of learning. Then I became an officer and like, oh my gosh, now we got all this officers training. I didn't know all that stuff. So it's just a progress of at the beginning. And I would say, I would caution, not particularly for new members when they're getting used to it. Maybe it's a little overwhelming to require too much at the beginning. Just come to the members, you know, just come to the meetings and not overwhelm them with all of these things. It will happen naturally is the way I look at it. So that's the way I see it.
Thank you, Beverly. My experience has been that in the beginning, when you're a new member of a club, you're kind of focused, like Beverly mentioned, you're a little bit overwhelmed with just what's going on in your club. But the more experience that you have within Toastmasters, you start to get outside the walls a little bit. And you realize that not only are there benefits to your own particular club, but there are additional benefits outside of the club within the district. And the more experience you have with Toastmasters, the more you find out about this. So my last question to the panel is going to be to everybody. And my question is, what is your biggest club challenge right now? And what are you doing to kind of focus on getting yourself out of that challenge? Sahithi.
Our biggest challenge right now is having members sign up to give a speech. There are times where we end up doing an entire table topic session because we didn't have a speaker sign up, or come up with new ideas because we don't have a speaker sign up. So in order to overcome that challenge, we are trying to reach out to our division leaders to come talk to our members and motivate them, or give tips on how they can, you know, easily come up with or overcome that fear of signing up to give a speech. And also internally work, all the officers together work with members to encourage them to at least clear their level 1, which is giving an icebreaker. Most of our members did give an icebreaker, but beyond icebreaker, there is no movement because they don't get to sign up, or there's something stopping them to sign up. So that's a major challenge that we're facing. And with the help of all my officers, we are trying to overcome that by having motivational speakers or talking to individuals to see what we can do further to help them to sign up, or just in general talk within the team meeting itself, or just put them on spot saying, hey, this is something that you can do to give your next speech. Would you like to give it a try? So in that sense, we had people sign up or come out of their comfort zone to sign up at least 2 weeks from now to give a speech. But it is still a work in progress. Hopefully this year we'll have more level ones complete, which is kind of a motivation to have more speeches come in.
Thank you, Sahithi. And Amy, obviously your club is in the very beginning of its process, but what is your next challenge for your club within the process of where you are right now?
So our challenge that we're tackling right now is getting ourselves comfortable with the roles and hosting a Toastmasters event. And so that's why we're doing kind of a dry run and getting ourselves kind of laying the foundation. That way, when it comes to members joining us for the first time, it becomes a smoother, calmer experience. Fingers crossed for the new members. So that's what we're focused on right now.
Thank you, Amy. And Beverly, what is your club's current biggest challenge, and what are you doing to overcome those challenges?
I would say a similar challenge is getting enough speeches. I mentioned previously the quality of the meeting is important to keep everybody engaged. So we intentionally pulled back every 2 weeks to make sure that we didn't water it down so much that we lost that quality. And that seems to be working. We're able to really have a quality meeting with 2 or 3 speeches when we don't do it so frequently, and it doesn't put the same pressure on the same people. I would say the other challenge is getting the newer people to engage more, because for many of us who have been in the club for a while, we're very used to hearing each other speak because we've all done a lot of that. So you want more participants so that you're not, number one, it doesn't create a lot of a burden for the same people to do the speeches all the time. And number two, you want variety. I mean, the whole thing is you want variety. You want to evaluate new people, different things. You don't want the same people doing the same speech with the same evaluators. So we're really working on the quality of the time, and we're managing that by the frequency is how we're doing it. But it certainly has its challenges. And we mentioned before how we're doing it. We are putting in some, changing it up every once in a while to keep it different.
Thank you very much, Beverly. So the time is now 12:29. This hour has just flown by really fast. For our audience members, I'd like everyone to unmute yourselves and put your video on and show our appreciation for our 3 panelists. Beverly Ross, who is president of CFC Power Presenters, Amy Steele, who is president of Aventis, and our final member was Sahithi Chintapalli, who is president of CB Toast of Town Toastmasters Club. Thank you all so much for your participation. We really appreciate your insights, and we look forward to hearing more about your clubs over the next 6 months. To our audience members, thank you all so much for participating. We hope that this has been a value-added experience for you. And I will go ahead and put my email address in the chat. If you have any questions specifically that I can help you with, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to get in touch with you. Thank you all so much for spending this time with us on this Saturday afternoon. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Paula. Great job.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Well done. Well done. Outstanding panel. Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.